There's Georgie, everybody. Hey, buddy.
Waggy waggy.
Hey, everybody. Just here this morning to talk a little bit about Iran and how that relates to the world that we're living in now. I'm trying to look as libtard as possible for all my trolls. So, how about a Ralph Lauren fly fishing sweater? Doesn't get more soy boy than that. All right, so there's news last few days, and probably going forward here are these mass protests you're seeing in Iran, right? So let's talk to ourselves a little bit about what mass protests mean, and they can mean different things in different parts of the world. I'm not sponsored by Dr. Pepper. I just live off it. A couple a day with some tea and coffee. That's all you need. I've been in a few of these mass protests myself. They mean different things in different countries around the world. Sometimes it's pretty obvious, Sometimes it's simply the loss of freedoms and civil rights being violated. People losing their voice to a government that just won't hear them. In the case of Iran, it's all those things, right? You've seen them before, actually, in the last couple of years. But the economy has really come into play in a huge part there now. So when people can't live normal lives, when the cost of things rise and can't make ends meet, that can be another big contributing factor, as well as all the suppression from the religious right and Islamic government there. That's why you're seeing civil unrest in these rural areas around there too, right? Because, it's not just the university kids running around the streets claiming they don't have their civil rights. They want to take their headscarves off. This is in rural areas as well where you see these protests, not just in Tehran. Without the internet, which, the Islamic government's cut off, they can now move to more suppression. So remember that. As a guy who's been in protests in places like Cairo on the night of the revolution there, when longtime dictator Hosni Mubarak was forced from office, I can tell you it takes courage to face a repressive regime, both as a protester and sometimes even as a journalist. I don't think Americans understand the intense strength, both morally and physically, it takes to fight back against a state determined to break you at all costs. In Iran, they're shooting protesters in the face with ball bearings. Little steel balls in your eyes. Killing is merely a means to an end to quell these protests. Repressive regimes sort of think nothing of how to maintain power and expand their fear over their fellow countrymen. That's what totalitarian governments do, right? Through military might, a seemingly small group can wield a lot of control over a much larger group through cruelty and military power. So the fate of the Iranian people will be decided by how badly they're willing to bleed for the change that's needed to move that regime out. It'll be very, very bloody if it happens. It already has been, but it could be much, much worse. And with that, there are lessons to learn for us here in the United States. You turn to cities like Los Angeles, D.C., Chicago, and now Minneapolis. And you watch the cruelty of our own government and how it treats people. Immigrants so scared in Minnesota that locals have formed makeshift meals on wheels so they don't have to leave their homes. It's cruelty, and it's a tool used to break your spirit. As for the protesters themselves there, we have not yet reached a level where government has started shooting people en masse, like in Iran. Not yet. So far, just the onesies and twosies. Remember, Donald Trump and the whole of his administration has said very plainly that they have no issue with calling protesters domestic terrorists. Kristi Noem, who likes to shoot dogs that aren't useful to her, used those words herself. J.D. Vance, the self-proclaimed common man from Appalachia, used them the other day himself. Tom Homan tells us the agent who shot Miss Good in the face and then called her a bitch had to leave his home because of death threats. He's still alive, though, isn't he? And she's gone forever. But now, The actual woman he killed by shooting 3 times in the head is the reason this poor man is in hiding. Not that he shot her. Words matter here. Let's watch the messaging carefully and try not to laugh out loud. Because if you condition the nation that protesters are terrorists, it's much, much easier to harm them. As we saw in Minneapolis, justifying killing them and labeling them as such before you even have started your investigation. The majority of American people have never been shot at or bombed or even tear gassed, and I can tell you with great certainty that when bullets fly, your bravery will escape you, especially in a crowd surrounded not by disciplined troops who can fight back, but with panicking civilians. School teachers, doctors, lawyers, cashiers at your local market. Everyday people will shit their pants. So on front lines, there's men with guns to protect you. For me, I was always scared in firefights, like terrified. I didn't really show it as much, but I was terrified. And I always knew that I had the best chance of survival, though, because I was surrounded by trained fighters who wouldn't leave me if the shit got real. I was injured a couple of times. Once I was in an open cargo Humvee on the border of Afghanistan and Pakistan when a double-stacked anti-tank mine exploded underneath our vehicle. I walked away with skinned knees and skinned elbows when I was thrown clear. The soldier next to me lost his leg and part of his jaw. I still remember his name, and listening to him scream for his mother as his men kept him calm and retrieved his leg and then put it on the helicopter a few minutes later, along with him. Bravery. It takes bravery to fight these kinds of wars. I've had many close calls like this, been shot, hit with flying shrapnel from roadside bombs, but seldom did I worry I would make it out because I was always surrounded by these brave men in uniforms, not the cowardly ones you see on the streets of America right now. The point I was trying to get to before this rambling is this. These protests, the vicious ones you see in Iran and the fairly calm ones you now see in Minnesota, can be far worse than a front line. Guns fired into crowds can cause mass panic. You could be shot, trampled to death, especially when the crowds are large enough. And it would be easy to convince your supporters that it was all started by domestic terrorists. Antifa in the crowd, guns ablazing, right? That's what the dictatorial government might do. A police state run by men wearing police patches, but who weren't police at all. Instead, they look more like Delta Force or Navy SEAL teams. But they aren't that either, not even fucking close. They might come instead as men who are given crazy bonuses to buy their loyalty, big checks to terrorize immigrants and the people who try to protect them. And if this comes to pass, the streets of America might start looking more like the current streets of Iran. Think about that. Think about what government you want. And if it's not this one, start organizing yourselves to vote on a local level where you can make the most difference. Rid your government of old men who have lost their passion or who by inaction seem to embrace the cruelty that we're seeing now in the streets. The Chuck Grasslys, the Mitch McConnells, the Chuck Schumers. These types are best suited for country clubs, not fixing our democracy. Like, follow, and share. Democracy dies in darkness, Misfits.